Hey everybody, welcome back to another Raincoast Field School at home. I'm so excited to be with you. For those of you that forgot, my name is Taylor. So we have a new week and that means a brand new topic. Before we begin, I just want to welcome back all of our UK Elementary students as well as our Wicked Ninish. I'm so excited that you guys are here to join us. For those of you tuning in from a different region, I want to know where you're from. Let me know your name, tell me your grade, and what location you are. Feel free to throw it in the comment box right here. So, for our new topic, we are doing the signs of spring this week. And I'm so stoked because spring is my favorite season of all time. I love that there's flowers everywhere. I love hearing the birds return. As well, Mr. Sun is back and I'm so happy to welcome him in. For our lesson today, it's Tuesday, so that means it's lesson day. So we put together a sweet little video clip for you guys. And following this lesson, we've posted our Raincoast Challenge. So this is an at-home activity for you guys to do. You're gonna get 2 days to do it because on Thursday, we're gonna return at 11 o'clock again, and we're gonna review what you guys have done. If at any point throughout this video you guys have any questions, put them in the comment box because on Thursday, we're gonna return with a bunch of answers for you. Other than that, let's get started. Hey Amy, what are we learning about spring today?
Oh, hey Taylor, what are you doing out here?
Hey Amy, I'm going outside to enjoy my day and look for all the signs of spring because spring is in the air. Hey guys, can you help us out? I need to know all the things that I might see outside today. So in our chat box, list all the signs of spring. What things might you see or smell or hear if it's springtime? Hey Amy, what kind of things do you notice about spring?
Oh, I think about the days getting longer, the birds and whales migrating back to their summer homes, the bees coming out to pollinate all the flowers.
Oh my goodness, so much to think about when we think of spring. Amy, that's so cool that you mentioned that the days are getting longer. I just started to notice that too. However, I'm not really sure why. Could you tell us more?
That's a great question. Well, it all has to do with the location of the Earth in relation to the sun. Hey kids, do you know how long it takes for the Earth to spin around on its axis in one rotation? If you guessed that one rotation equals 1 day or 24 hours, then you're right. Okay, so then there's the sun, and the Earth rotates around the sun. I have a question for you. How long does it take for the Earth to do one full rotation around the sun? Type your answer in the chat box or tell the person next to you. If you said that one rotation around the sun equals 1 year, then you're right. So if the Earth was just straight up and down like this, with the poles pointing straight up and down, then the areas around the equator would always be the closest part of the Earth to the sun. And it would be so hot there all the time because those areas are so much closer to the sun than the poles. So if the Earth was straight up and down like this, we would never have seasons. And the temperature closer to the poles would pretty much be consistent all year round. But did you know that the Earth is actually tilted on its axis? The Earth is actually tilted at 23.5 degrees, and that's the reason we have seasons. So if the northern or the top end of the axis is tilted away from the sun like this, the southern hemisphere is closer to the sun, then they are going to have warmer temperatures. And then in the northern hemisphere, we're farther away, so it's colder, and that's when we're going to have winter. So when the axis is pointed toward the sun, we would get summer in the northern hemisphere, and it would be warmer. And in the south, it would be farther away from the sun, so they would have colder temperatures and they would have winter. So this picture shows us that spring and fall are the in-between, just the transition from the axis pointing away or towards the sun. So in the summer, we have longer days because we're pointing towards the sun for longer during the Earth's daily rotation. And in the winter, we have shorter days because we're pointing towards the sun for less time. So let's head back into the field and check out some signs of spring. So what kind of tree are we looking at right now, Taylor?
So this is an alder tree, and it's going to be one of the first trees to bloom in spring.
Does this tree have two different types of cones?
Ooh, good question, Amy. So these two different things that you can see on this alder tree are called catkins. And so one part, this guy over here that looks kind of like a pine cone, is the female part of the tree. And then these little guys here that hold all of the pollen are the male part of the tree.
Hey Taylor, I heard there was alder that was pollinating right now and leaving all that yellow dust on my car.
So Amy, each one of these male catkins holds millions of reproductive grains. And right now they're pollinating. So if I go like this, you can see all of that pollen in my hand. And right now it's blowing through the air because it's dispersed through wind. And it's landing on other trees and fertilizing other alder trees. They can spread it so far. So it gets on our cars, it gets in other trees, it gets up our nose. And that's why a lot of people have springtime allergies. It's because of these little guys.
Wow, Taylor, that's so cool. I didn't know that wind did a lot of pollinating. I thought insects did a lot of pollinating.
Yeah, Amy, you're right. Insects do a lot of pollinating. Could you tell us a little bit more?
Yeah, let's do it.
Sounds good.
Can anyone here name a pollinator? What kind of insect or animal loves to go around to different plants and flowers to drink their nectar? Write your answer in the chat box or tell somebody who's sitting next to you. You got it, it's bees. One of the very important roles that bees play in nature is that they pollinate. Pollination is needed for plants to reproduce, and so many plants depend on bees and other insects as pollinators. When a bee collects nectar and pollen from the flower of a plant, some pollen from the male reproductive organ of the flower sticks to the hairs of the bee's body. When she visits the next flower, some of the pollen rubs off onto the female reproductive part of the other flower. When this happens, fertilization is possible and fruit can develop. So let's head back into the field and check out some signs of spring.
Hey, what are you doing over there, Taylor?
Oh, Amy, one of my favorite things to do when I'm outside is to go around and learn new plants, so ones that I don't know.
Cool. How do you do that?
Yeah, so normally what you do is you want to have your identification book because it really comes in handy. And then you use your observation skills to look at all of the plant's different traits. So you can notice its branches, its leaf formation, where it is growing, what kind of site it's at, and you can direct it back to all the information in a book. So this one here I'm a little stumped on. I either think it's a hooker's willow or a Pacific willow. Hey guys, do you remember what this part of a plant is called? These are the catkins. Do you remember what the catkins hold? So this willow species that we're holding here differs from those alder catkins we looked at earlier because all of the pollen is mostly dispersed through insects rather than the wind. just like with the bees pollinating the flowers. Whoa, Amy, what are these little guys coming up? These look so cool.
This really cool plant is called Horsetail, and it's one of the oldest plant families known in the world. Horsetails are known to be a pest in gardens because their roots spread out super far and they can actually go deep in the ground. So they're resistant to herbicides and even weeding because they'll come up year after year. This one that we're looking at right now is actually the male reproductive part of the plant. So the male and the female parts come up separately. The female part comes up later and it kind of looks like a bottle brush.
So dandelions are actually one of the first flowers that emerge in spring, and they're an attractant to pollinators. So that means when they open up, bees are attracted to them, which is a really important species to have in our garden. Okay, Amy, we're gonna look at a dandelion species. So this one right here is super good to be looking at because it has 3 different life stages happening. So right now, it has a super closed bud that is yet to even flower. It has a bud that is flowering, but it is still morning. So when the sun comes out, this flower is going to open up and show its yellow head. And then we also have the final stage. So this head right here is going to open up and it's going to have all of those white seed heads. And so on a really windy day, these guys have adapted to know when the wind's going to be strong, and they'll open up and be able to spread their seeds all across the land from all of the heavy winds. Hey guys, do you know how many flowers I'm holding in my hand right now? I'm actually holding about 50 or even more. Crazy thought, hey? It looks like just one, but actually every single one of these petals will become a seed and be its own flower. So once this dandelion has been fertilized, it will close back up and all of the yellow petals you see will turn into its seed form. And once it's a really windy day, it's gonna open back up again and all the little seeds will go off and turn into their own flower. Hey guys, let's check in with Mark and see what he likes to find in spring, and then we'll continue our walk. Hey Mark! Oh hey Mark! Good to run into you at the mud flats here in Tofino.
Oh, how's it going, Taylor? Yeah, this is one of my favorite spots.
Well, Mark, what are those beautiful flowers in front of you there?
Oh, these little guys? These are salmonberry flowers. Yeah, I love salmonberries. They're some of the first flowers to come out in the spring. They are an important food source for some other migratory species, like hummingbirds.
You just taking in the sunshine there, Mark? What you doing?
You better believe it, baby. But I'm also waiting for some other birds. Geese.
Whoa, what kind of geese are those?
We get a couple of different kinds of species passing through here. Most of the ones you see flying overhead this time of year are cackling geese and white-fronted geese. They travel together.
Where are they flying to?
So all of these geese, they're flying up to their Arctic breeding grounds. That's where they lay their eggs and hatch their chicks. But then they spend the winter down south. So right now, thousands and thousands of geese are passing overhead en route to their summer breeding grounds.
Mark, every time I see geese, they're always flying in a V formation. Why is that?
Well, it's a way for them to save energy. The geese in the front are doing all the hard work, pushing through the air, and each one of those geese further back in the V is enjoying a little bit of a free ride. But they take turns to keep it fair.
Shh.
Here's another really cool bird. They're easy to hear, but hard to see. The Swainson's thrush.
That looks like a pretty boring bird, Mark. What's so cool about those guys?
Well, they're anything but boring. Swainson's thrushes are highly migratory. These guys fly from the jungles of Central and South America all the way to the boreal forest.
And do they eat salmon berries too?
You know what? They don't. But usually right around the time that salmonberry flowers appear is when you first start hearing Swainson's thrushes.
Why is that?
Well, a lot of different species, plants, birds, they all pay attention to how the seasons are changing, but they're looking at different things than we usually pay attention to. So we humans usually pay attention to the seasons by looking at our calendar. But wild animals and plants, they take different cues. One of the most important is photoperiod, the amount of day length in any given day. So in the springtime, a lot of animals that are experiencing changing photoperiod are suddenly seeing a lot more daylight.
Hey, Mark!
Hey Taylor, can we go look for some berries?
Ooh, Amy, it's a little bit too early in the season for berries. However, we can look at some berry bushes and see their leaves budding and their flowers forming. Let's go take a look.
Nice.
All right, Amy. So the first berry bush that we can look at here is called our salmonberry brush. And normally when you see it, it's just kind of these spiky brown sticks shooting up from the ground. You can see them all winter long. However, this is a deciduous shrub. So it loses all of its leaves all winter, and in springtime, it starts forming again, just like this one here. And so the leaves that show up kind of come in little buds, and they'll open up to have a bunch of them all next to each other. As well, a little pink flower will shoot out of that same bud spot. How pretty! So Amy, remember last time when we talked about the two types of vaccinium on the coast? We had our evergreen huckleberry and our red huckleberry. So this right here is our red huckleberry. And so if it's called red huckleberry, what kind of colored berries do you think it produces?
Yellow.
Yeah, I mean, what a jokester we have here, hey? Red berries. So these berries are gonna bloom kind of around June, July is when they show up. But a cool thing to notice is that in wintertime, there's no leaves on the red huckleberry. So right now you can see all the new leaves being produced on all of the shoots, which is pretty cool. So a really cool way to identify this plant is obviously due to its really tiny little leaves, but also the stem is square. So it has 4 sides, and it's pretty cool to see a plant having a square stem rather than being circular. So here we have our evergreen huckleberry. Amy, why do you think they're called evergreen?
Oh, do they stay green all year long?
Yeah, you got it. So even in the wintertime, these leaves are going to be green, making our forest look so beautiful. So underneath each leaflet, you can see a little flower forming. Red huckleberries are going to come in first with their yummy berries to eat. But our evergreen are going to be those berries that are way later in the season. Kind of in September, you guys can eat them, which is pretty sweet. Look over here, what a treat. Although these are our last year's season berries, you guys can have a look at what salal berries look like. Just think, our forests are so dense with salal, and they even produce berries. That means there's a ton of food for so many species in the forest.
Hey Taylor, when do we see salal berries come out?
So Amy, you can see that the flower is already starting to bud and form. Oh, and this one is kind of open already. So the flowers are going to come first, and the berries are going to show up a little bit later in the season. Hey Amy, what are you doing?
I'm looking for some strawberries.
Ooh, as cool as it would be to have real berries right now, unfortunately it's too early, but we can see the white flowers forming, and as soon as they're pollinated, berries will be able to form. Amy, this isn't a berry, it's skunk cabbage. So a skunk cabbage is a perennial flower that grows in wet areas in the forest floor, along streams, and in wet, damp swamp areas. So skunk cabbage emerges in the early spring. It's going to be one of those first spring flowers that you see. And as you can see this one emerging, it comes before its leaves. So the flower itself shows up before its big leaves are grown. All right, so skunk cabbage gets its name because it gives off a really potent smell. It kind of smells a little skunky. However, this flower is so beautiful that I like to call it swamp lantern instead. Ew. Animals like bears love to eat skunk cabbage. They'll actually gnaw on the roots, so underneath what's growing in the ground, and it helps them move their digestive tract. So once they emerge from hibernation and they haven't gone to the bathroom in a really long time, they like to use skunk cabbage to help them do it. Wow, what is this crazy shrub? It's growing everywhere and seems like it's taking over everything.
So Scotch Broom is an invasive species and it spreads so quickly. It was actually introduced to Vancouver Island by a Scottish captain in the 1800s who had picked up some seeds in Hawaii. And of all the seeds that he originally planted, only 3 of the plants germinated. The descendants of these 3 plants have colonized a lot of Vancouver Island. A single broom plant can produce 18,000 seeds that are viable in the soil for 20 to 40 years. So even if you dig it up, it might have dropped its seed pods, so they could be everywhere.
Wow, that sounds really bad. Hey kids, you should get involved in your local broom bash. So they usually happen in April and May when these Scotch broom are in bloom. So they have to be cut at ground level. It's important that you're not pulling them out of the ground. And so when the broom is putting all of its energy into the flowers, that's when we want to cut it out. That means if we do it this way, the shrub will go into a drought in summertime and it will die, and then we won't have to remove its roots. For you guys today. Thanks so much for joining us on our walk around spring. Be sure to get outside and look for all the signs of spring on yourself. And also be sure to do your Raincoast challenge. We're going to bring it back on Thursday and see what you got. Everybody, that's a wrap. Thanks so much for tuning in and learning all the signs of spring with us. I had such a fun time. Remember to sign up for our email if you guys want the inside scoop on all of our Zoom meetings, and as well we can send you easy access to our Raincoast challenges. All right, you have 2 days to do those challenges. We'll see you back here at Thursday at 11 o'clock. Have a good day, guys.